Hello there, Atheist Junior here, your friend and humble narrator, and I'm really excited about today's stream because I have an esteemed guest. My last stream I did with Mark Reed and Grayson, we took a look at Mandisa's debate with Kent Hovind, which was something to behold. It was very interesting. I thought she did a fantastic job debating Kent in person. I think like we said, it takes a lot of courage to go down there and sort of be outnumbered by the theists and face against Kent Hovind, one-on-one like that. And so I give a ton of credit to her. I thought she did a great job. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And why don't you just introduce yourself to my audience and just talk a little bit about what your organization does.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me on the channel, on your show. And also thank you for the background pointers that you shared with me beforehand. That was extremely helpful. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I am Mandisa Thomas. I am the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization headquartered in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And what we do is we provide support for community engagement and advocacy, primarily, not exclusively, but primarily for Black folks who are atheist, humanist, agnostic, secular, skeptics, and who are also questioning their religious beliefs in favor of leaving. If, for those of you who aren't aware, according to even statistics like Pew Research, even though the Black community and Black population in the United States is about 12%, we make up about almost 80% of the religious population. And those are due to a number of factors, primarily institutional. And so what that does is create an extra added burden and challenge for Black folks who either are openly identified as atheists and they don't have anyone around them, to those who are closeted and who feel so isolated that they aren't aware that there are others out there, like in real life, in real time. And also atheism is almost seen exclusively amongst many Black people as being something that white people do. That there cannot possibly be any Black atheists out there because everyone around them believes, they hold those beliefs so high in such high regard that there's no possible way, and there's no way you can absolutely be Black and be atheist too. Of course, we know this isn't true, and this is due to historically as well. There have always been Black atheists, humanists, and free thinkers, even though in current day there are more of us. But it has still been a challenge to connect with more of us, to connect more with each other, and retain community to a large extent. So Black Nonbelievers was founded in Atlanta. It was supposed to just simply be a group regulated to the Atlanta area, because there were other Black secular entities and organizations at the time that existed. And so what we wanted to do was work with those existing organizations, as well as other local atheists, humanists, secular meetup groups, to try to bring out more Black atheists. Because one of the things I said after I attended a meetup was that there has to be more of us out here. Atlanta is a predominantly Black city. Everyone cannot possibly be religious. I had people coming to me on Facebook saying, "You don't believe in God?" No, good, because I don't believe it either. So it was just almost like this dirty secret, but it was just something that we needed to resolve and help mitigate for many people who were in this position of not being able to find other like-minded individuals. It was hard to find atheists in general, but let alone Black atheists, because there was that there is that connection and those similarities that many of us face when it comes to being in our communities. And so this is what we sought to help fix, was to bring more of us together, but also be open and speak openly about the challenges that we face and how we can help resolve them. So, and we've been around since 2011. We have hosted a number of in-person events in the Atlanta area and nationwide. We have connected with other media sources, like we've been featured on CBS Sunday Morning. We've been featured on CNN. We've participated in a few billboard campaigns in 2022. I was on the Atlanta billboard for the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And it just simply said that the billboard had my face on it and said, I'm an atheist and I vote. So, and I also had a chance, I also connected with other BN members so that they can be a part of it too. And even more institutionally, we have a relationship now with the National Museum for African American Culture in DC, the Smithsonian Museum. So a few years ago, they reached out to us because they were looking for a participant, an atheist participant, Black atheist in particular, for their documentary called God Talk, which is a documentary that centers around the lives of seven black millennials from different religious backgrounds, one of whom is an atheist. And what they also did was provide background from leaders in those various communities. And so I was one of them. Dr. Anthony Penn, a noted Black humanist scholar and professor, and also a good colleague, we had him on our show recently, was in this film as well. So we provided some background on our position. And so now we have the National Museum for African American Culture now has a framework for what building community among Black non-religious people looks like. And that is due to, again, the events that we've held. We also table at other events. We also do a lot of advocacy work. We are a member organization of the Secular Coalition for America. So we, we do champion a separation of religion and government, separation of church and state. We are pro-human rights, pro-reproductive justice rights. And so we stand on a number of issues that impact the non-religious community in general, but in particular, Black people. Because, and oftentimes it is having the tough discussion about religion and the damaging role that it has played in Black communities, and the pervasiveness of the presence of Christianity in particular, as it pertains, as you see it in politics, as you see it in entertainment, as you see it all across the Black community, that it seems to be such a defining factor. But we have been fortunate enough to have researchers contact us, like I said, documentarians, people who are, and journalists reach out to us about the Black non-religious perspective, and also to have our members speak publicly, which is not an easy thing to do, but to have folks speak out and in the face of facing ostracism, like many of us do, or we might, that is a fear, and which is justified. But we definitely, and we have expanded to we do co-sponsor a student scholarship with the Secular Student Alliance. It's called the Hurston Scholarship, which is named after Zora Neale Hurston. And to that end, historically, we speak on the historical presence of Black humanists and atheists and freethinkers in Black communities, even though their presence was not well known. So in the mainstream secular community, of course, you have your big names, you have your Dawkins, you have Hitchens, the late great Christopher Hitchens.
Oh yeah.
You have Sam Harris. You have all of these folks who who are associated with being the voices of atheism as largely white men. However, Daniel Dennett as well, who just recently passed away.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He died. He passed away, I think, either last year or early this year. So he just recently passed. I mean, we know that he was up in age. So he just recently passed away. However, there are a lot of Black atheist content creators, musicians, activists, and folks who have been around for a long time, some of whom have collaborated with us, with Black Nonbelievers as an organization, to be a part of their material, to be a part of their research, to be a part of their books, and also to provide better insight into what it means and how our everyday lives are impacted by our position and the people that we're around. And so one of our jobs, or one of the missions of our organization, is to try to make that process easier in a number of ways, whether it is trying to explain to your family what it's like to be, an atheist. Thank you for that. Yes, he died this year, April 19th, which is my brother's birthday. And also to help others and help other Black atheists, non-believers find each other. Because oftentimes, again, there is this sense of isolation. People think they're the only ones. And we say, hey, no, there are other people around. And we also encourage people to find their local networks because we think it is vital for people to participate and engage in not just online or virtual community, but in-person community, because that is where you get a really good sense of what people are like. And that's also how things are changed on the ground, is for you to actually show up in numbers, and also providing that support system while also being unapologetic advocates for each other. So we have done a number of things. We participate in Dragon Con every year now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that convention that takes place every Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. There's a huge fandom convention. They have some of everything.
Is that like Godzilla related? Like, I think Aaron Ra had a video from Dragon Con where he was doing he was talking about Godzilla and Mothra.
Yes, he was at Dragon Con one year. I've been participating with Dragon Con since 2014. So yes, he was there before. Matt Dillahunty was there. Dan Barker from the Freedom from Religion Foundation was there as well. So because there's a skeptic track, or what's called the Skep track, and so everything on that track is atheist, humanist, science-based, evidence-based queries, content. And so it's a really cool thing to see at a convention where you have everything that is, that is familiar to our community and pertains to our community at this convention. It is fantastic. So, and there's like tens of thousands of people who attend that entire convention every year. And it's really, really good it has been really great for connecting with attendees and getting our name out there in the organization. So we do a lot of in-person engagement. Like I said, we've done plenty of interviews, and what was so interesting about, and I'm sure we'll get into this in just a moment.
I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you. I know.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll stop at this point because I know I've been going for a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, you're good at that. You're very well spoken, and you definitely you're doing so much. You know what I mean? I can see why you have like a lot to talk about, because your organization really seems like the tip of the spear in terms of getting more attention to people who are an underrepresented group in the atheist community. So I think that's great. And so I'm going to read this super chat from Robin Webster for $5. It says, Mandisa,
hey, Robin.
Unbelievable grace and composure dealing with Kent and his flying monkeys. AJ, I love the review, and walking by sight, not by faith. So thank you, Robin. Thank you for the super chat. And so your channel just got monetized, you said, from doing this Kent debate. So congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. Yes.
But you were talking about you were giving or just mentioning some of the programs you've been on, and I think it's a really impressive resume. And it reminded me of in the debate with Kent, how for some reason he decided that he was going to give your introduction for you, I guess. And he was just reading off like you know, like all the programs you've been on CBS Sunday Morning, but like he showed right from the beginning, he showed a picture that wasn't you.
Mm-hmm.
So like what were you thinking when you watched his like intro? Because that was, I don't know, it was cringy, it was embarrassing. It just, the debate got off to a bad start right from the first slide. So
Right. So half of that information that they put out there was outdated.
right.
I am, I previously served on the boards for American Atheists and the American Humanist Association. I'm no longer serving on those boards, even though we still retain decent relationships with those organizations. And it was so very interesting to see that they just put up. Now, what I thought what was very interesting is that there are other Mandisas out there. So my name, the origin of my name is South African. It's from the Xhosa nation of South Africa, and so it's very popular over there. However, there are other Mandisas over here in the United States, and I love giving the background on my name because of the definition, but also what it stood for at the time that I was named. And so I'll be 48 in September. Was born in 1976. That was during a very pivotal time in Black communities where a lot of my peers were named African names, and that was intentional to try to connect with African history and African culture, which is something that was denied many Black people here in the United States. And so them showing a picture of another woman with short blonde hair, even though she shared my name and we share somewhat similar characteristics, but you could clearly tell that we were two different people. It showed very much, I'm not sure if he was trying to rattle me, he might have been, but in having dealt with him and having seen him behind the scenes, there was a sense of ineptness in a lot of ways. And it also goes to show this lazy way of, because there were some pictures that he had of me up there. And if you heard, I clarified which was me, but for the fact that they put up this picture of this other Mandisa, who, if you looked her up, she does not have the same bio. She does not have the same background. So why even use that picture? I guess he thought he was making a joke. It wasn't funny. It was almost comical to me because these are the types of things that we have to deal with on a regular basis, just as Black folks. We have to, there are some folks who think, oh, we may all look alike. Okay, yeah, so there are other Mandisas out there. First of all, he needs to be careful. Hopefully this other woman will not see this debate and try to, he better hope that she doesn't take any legal action against him, because clearly she was misrepresented as well.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not. It really isn't. But this is a thing that you can tell that even from the feedback that I got from all of you about him, it's something that he just really doesn't care about. Because when I said that wasn't me, he's like, oh, well, that's what came up. Well, clearly it wasn't me. It really wasn't. So it's like you probably just didn't give a damn at all about which picture you were going to use. Perhaps he thought it was a tactic to try to piss me off. But I just possible. But I thought it was funny more than anything else.
Yeah, because I had a similar experience. My first debate with Kent, because this is what he does. He just Googles people's name or YouTube name, and somebody had made I didn't know it at the time, but somebody had made a WikiTube YouTube fan site for my channel that had some information about me, like had the dates I had reached certain subscriber milestones, and it had like a short bio and some facts about me. And but like you said, some of the information was outdated, some of it was incorrect because there was typos, and I'm part of the LGBT community. I'm bisexual, and it said that on there, and that was literally the first thing that Kent brought up in the debate. Was that, which is irrelevant to the debate. It has nothing to do with the debate about should evolution be taught in public schools. It's irrelevant. But the funny thing is that it had my height listed on the site. But instead of saying 5'11", it said I was 5'1", and Kent just ran with that information and just put that on there. I just thought that was funny. And because he's extremely homophobic, in addition to a whole list of other like bigotries he has. I've had to deal with this a lot with Kent. You know what I mean? He's pretty vicious with his comments. I'm not really bothered by it, but I do think that either it's done intentionally, or if it's not done intentionally, there's no effort to correct the mistake, because he said, oh, well, it's the first thing that came up. Yeah, it's the first thing that came up, but that doesn't mean it's the right image. So if it was even if it's an honest mistake, you should do your due diligence and go back and maybe compare that the two images you have in the slideshow don't match up. So that was
I'm actually going to just do a test right now to see which is the first image that comes up. It's not that. It definitely is not. It definitely is not. That's not the first thing that comes up. It's a picture of me. It's like 5 pictures of me that come up. And it's not, none of them was the woman with the short blonde hair and the peach looking suit. So that was very, very much, that was a cop out, if you will. It was a cop out, and it was just, you could just tell. I mean, she comes up a little bit further down. But no, that definitely is not. It's my pictures that come up first. so clearly they could have. That was very lazy and lacking on their part.
Yeah. So I want to talk more about the certain parts of the debate, but I want to jump ahead to the Q&A because I just need to bring this up. So there was a Q&A section where for some reason they have microphones they have 2 microphones for you and 2 for Kent, but they don't have a microphone for the guests to ask questions so that the viewers can actually hear what's being asked. And Kent's not repeating the questions. So it was, you have to strain to hear what's being asked, but you had an interaction with somebody who I think was very rude to you and was interrupting you. And
yes.
That person is somebody who is not a fan of my channel. We have beef, and his channel is Proverbs Guy, and like I mentioned to you, this is a man who owes $2 million in back child support.
Wow!
So that shows the caliber of his character, I think. Just a fun fact.
Very much so.
But his question was so ridiculous because from what I could hear, he was saying. Can you give me an example of I guess he was saying that humans are much higher in I guess intellect or cognition than wild animals.
Correct.
And
yes.
He wanted an example of a transitional fossil that would show where was this like step that happened that gave humans this massive gap in their cognition and brain ability. And that is a ridiculous question. You couldn't see that from one example from the fossil record. So it was just a stupid question on its face.
Yes. And what he also asked was, have animals ever done like charity work? Can they raise money for charity? And it's like, well, that's a false equivalence for one, because, in the animal kingdom, there is, granted, yes, there's power dynamics there, but if he is trying to make a case that humans are so above animals, then he's not making a very good case at all, because we wouldn't need to have charity drives for, for economically disadvantaged people, because, the animal kingdom has not caused as much damage to the earth as much as human beings have. And so he really was making this very false equivalence. And I'm like, well, what makes us so much more high? Because we communicate in a different way. Yeah, sure. And we have we've had the ability to do good and bad things to the earth and to other species. That doesn't make us any, it doesn't make us innately or inherently better. And so he was really trying to interrupt, and I'm just like, no, sir. You do not get to interrupt me, and simply because you don't like my responses. And I thought that it was very, very interesting to see the number of people who in that audience who just seemed to be just like outright incensed that I was so assertive with my position. They really didn't seem to like that at all. And I'm like, well, too bad, for one.
Yeah.
But also, if he's hiding out at Hovind's compound, which it is, and which it seemed like there were a number of them that are doing that. Just being at that facility itself, it seemed like it was just a hideout or a way for, people to, I guess, get free room and board, or and in exchange for volunteering for the compound / farm, or getting maybe some sort of benefit. But yeah, it just seemed very manufactured and very again, it was very cult-like.
Yeah.
And I was quite.
I don't want to interrupt you like he did, but
no, that's fine.
I have some comments I want to make, and I don't want to forget what I'm going to
sure.
say.
Yeah.
So it's Stephen Bolin, and I was talking to my friend about this, and I was saying that and I assume you saw that he's a relatively large man.
He is, yes, yes,
big dude. And so I think that you have, you're a woman, you are at DAL, you're outnumbered by the Christians, you're the atheist there, and you're an outsider. You're seated. And you have this man who's standing up, and he's addressing you, saying, you have the floor, answer the question, which is a direct command. And I just thought it was a level of intimidation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And it was, I didn't appreciate it. I think it came off as sexist and sort of violent. You know what I mean? I didn't like that, And so I thought your response was appropriate, I think. And it was funny. I thought it was funny.
And let me just say this, right? I was born and raised in New York City. I'm from the projects. I'm from the hood. It is very, very hard to intimidate me in such a manner. So even if you're bigger than me, even if I am outnumbered, guess what? You're not going to intimidate me like that. I was not going to back down from him just because he was, trying, like you said, he was trying to be intimidating. And I'm like, who the hell are you? I'm like, excuse you. I'm like, that may work with other people, but it is not going to work with me. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, you need to stand down, and don't just do it to me, but don't do that to anybody.
Right.
So yeah, I'm like,
you had even said at the beginning, you would give examples of some of the staff members who you said were courteous to you, and I think. So he should follow their example. You know what I mean? I just thought it was funny how Kent told him to go to the back of the line. I think he was trying to impress Kent Hovind, because that's something that this person does. But I almost wish that you had sort of told Kent during the debate, stop interrupting me, because I felt like he wouldn't let you finish a sentence, and it was very annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you noticed, I did get a chance to zing him a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
I was informed of the snake bite. beforehand.
Yeah.
And I actually did confirm that with his people, Sergio, who was my main contact. And so I'm like, first of all, is he okay? And then secondly, are we going to have an issue with snakes on this property if I'm staying there? So, I asked them, I'm like, I need to confirm this information. Please let me know so that I can make a decision. And so, he confirmed that he confirmed that Kent was bitten, or Hovind was bitten, and that, they did everything they could to like sweep the property, make sure that there were no snakes on the loose. And so, but I did ask them, I'm like, yeah, how are you? How are you doing after that snake bite? Because clearly it wasn't the will of God that you were cured. You probably took your behind to the doctor, because, other like rattlesnake, I wouldn't want to be bitten by a rattlesnake, but I can imagine that if I was, I'd either get sick or die. So.
Right. And this actually sort of is, it's interesting. I have been on record saying that, you should never pick up a snake with your bare hands. Kent thought that it was a snake that had escaped from his daughter's collection. She has reptiles, and I believe she probably has an aquarium that has snakes in it. But even so, if you have a pet snake that is not your pet and they've escaped from their tank, they're probably hungry, they're probably cold, and they're probably scared. So they're like, if you try to pick them up with your bare hands, they'll probably strike at you. So that's why you see professional herpetologists and people like even Steve Irwin, they use a hook to pick up snakes. They don't pick them up with their bare hands, generally. Well, Steve Irwin might have done that, but he's a professional. Kent's not. And
even he as a professional, I'm sorry, not to cut you off as well, but even Steve Irwin as a professional unfortunately lost his life because of how he was handling things. But
I think it's interesting how Kent will hand wave whole fields of science and say that this is not science. This shouldn't be taught in the schools. But he picks and chooses which elements of science are valid. And I just think it's funny that he has no issue with the discovery of anti-venom that he was able to take advantage of. And but evolution, that's not science. But
right.
I just think that's funny.
It was very, very funny because if you remember early on, like in the debate, right, he started going into all these different religions and what they believe and how Islam is so bad and all these other religions are bad. And I'm just like, well, you're basically proving my point as to why I'm an atheist. Because I don't believe in any of it. I don't believe in Christianity. I don't believe in any form of creationism that comes with Christianity. And like I was very clear on stating that there were 4 versions of it. And which of course he did not enough, his response was to say, well, they're wrong and I'm right. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. All of this stuff that you're spewing right now about the absurdities of science and the earth being billions of years old to be absurd to you. He did not come back with anything plausible about how his belief explains the origins of the earth and not in a way that is scientific at all. He was just simply holding up his little laminated posters talking about what science has gotten wrong. And that's just like, sir, there are just certain things that I don't even need to say. You're making yourself look so bad.
Yeah. So this actually goes right into this question that Deviant has, and anybody in the audience who has questions, please, let me know so I can ask our guests. And it says, Mandisa, what, if any, was your reaction to or thoughts about the laminated slides that decorate the breakfast area and the trees? And I'm going to let you answer, but my oven is beeping, so I'm going to turn it off. I'll be right back.
Oh, sure. No problem. Thank you for asking that question. So my thoughts were that they were just simply ludicrous. There was nothing on those laminated posters that cited any sort of historical or scientific data. There was nothing in there. There was nothing on them. The only things that were on them were Bible quotes. And of course, the Bible has no footnotes. It has no references to other works cited. It has no references to like any archaeological information or anything like that. So those laminated posters that were that were all around the compound were just really, I mean, he kept repeating this phrase of the pine tree has all these different ancestors, and it was a pine tree. And it was like, okay, are you literally just simply joking? I mean, that was his answer for everything. And for his premise to be that this is creation science, and for him to have replicas of dinosaurs on that property, there were no artifacts. There was nothing in there. There was nothing in the way of comparative information, or nothing that he said, nothing that could actually be quantified or qualified in any way, except he said so, or that the Bible said so.
Yeah.
And so even if you look at even if you go to a zoo or nature preserve or something like that, there is much more in the way of information about the origin, the history of it, and where you can find more information. There was nothing like that there. Nothing. And so ultimately, I do think that is very, very dangerous, it is very irresponsible to have children at that place where they think they're learning something and they really aren't. I mean, there's so much that could be learned, but he's not giving that information.
Right.
So, yeah.
So my friend Grayson, he has a channel called Base Theory, and he, like you, he went and visited DAL in person, and he debated Kent, and he also made a little vlog / video just highlighting his experience at DAL, and it was fascinating. I think it's one of the best videos that I've seen about Kent or just on YouTube in general. So I'd highly recommend watching that. I mean, you gotta you've seen DAL firsthand, but it's still, for me, like I've been following Kent for a while, and I was not somebody who called DAL a cult. I said that Kent exhibited cult leader behavior, but it wasn't until I saw Grayson's documentary and I saw those laminated posters that are everywhere, and they're on the trees. Yep. You're sacrificing the beauty of nature that the park does have to put these signs that say Hitler was an evolutionist. And to me, that's what convinced me that this is a cult, because the reason that you have these everywhere is because it's reinforcing and it's drilling into the minds of the people who are there over and over again, hearing these arguments. You know what I mean? If Kent's arguments were that strong, he wouldn't need to constantly hammer in these ideas. You know what I mean? To me, that just comes off as ridiculous, and it is very cult-like. It's creepy and it's weird.
It is, and I might also add that it's very bait and switchy, because anyone can come to that facility for free. He's very quick to say that that there's free food there, that he so he's basically offering all of these attractive things, and if people want to stay there, or if they need a haven or something, then they then they're able to stay there in this quote unquote welcoming community, and that is just that just always kind of raises a red flag for me. And I mean, granted, yes, it's great to be able to, have a place where, I mean, of course, we would love not to have to pay for any sort of like a adventure or like facility or theme park or something like that. But if the exchange is that you end up working it for little or next to nothing, then that's not, then you're basically, it's a cult. And it's also very manipulative and dangerous. And for it to be in almost the middle of nowhere, Alabama, was also another very alarming, because we know the history of how he moved his original facility from Pensacola to Alabama. Of course, he doesn't say anything about that.
Yeah, well, that wasn't by choice. I don't think. So we have another question. It says, were there any actual experiments people could do there?
So there was this one experiment that he did with sound, and he had like these
the satellite dishes.
Yes, the satellite dishes.
Yeah, that I do think that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? But that's not anything that he really did, and he tries to flip that into being like a spiritual lesson, which it's not. It's
yes. He has like these. I think that was probably like the only thing he had. There was like a greenhouse that one of his residents there was working. And so I could imagine that they grow food, or I mean there were things that I saw there from Walmart as well, because they celebrated one of the birthdays of one of their folks there, which of course I thought was nice. And I could imagine that they may harvest their own food and such, and that they may have things that people can consume from the land itself, which in itself isn't inherently a bad thing, right? But that doesn't have to be a religious thing. And so that setup reminded me of the last his wife, who I'm not sure if you heard her, what she said what the Bible meant about slavery. Not that it was literal slavery, but that it was.
I did hear that.
Yeah, and so that is what I guess she was trying to justify their compound as being. Well, it's not slavery; it's sort of servitude.
Indentured servitude.
Yeah, indentured servitude. People need a place to go. They need a community. Then they pledge their allegiance basically to the people who are helping them, and it's like, well, this sounds like what you're doing here, right? And it definitely is not in the Bible.
Right. So there's so many things that I want. Like, I forgot what I was going to say, but I remembered it, and I was going to say that DAL is technically registered as a homeless shelter legally. That's what it's classified as, because Kent does not want people taking residence there, living there, and having their residence where they receive mail, even though they receive mail anyway. But he doesn't want anybody officially legally living there. But this was my favorite moment of the whole debate was Kent accidentally saying that he was God. That cracked me up. You know what I mean? That was my favorite part.
I think I like it was either Grayson or Mark which said that my facial expressions said it all. Yes. And I have a bad poker face. I really, really do. If you've ever seen me on other shows, I've been on AXP before. I've been on the line with Matt. It's hard for me that when I hear or see something ridiculous, I can't hide it. Yeah. And so I think I know I was doing that throughout almost the entire debate because of the things that he was saying. And he was definitely slipping some things in there. There were some things that he was, yes, this is our faith. There were some things that he actually had to admit that he agreed with me on. And just when he was saying national pornographic, I was just like, wow. And something that I should have said, you know how when you're doing debates, you're like, oh, shoot, I should have said that during the time, when he talked about porn, right? And, when he was, when he asked me what I thought about porn. Yeah. And I should have said, well, it certainly is serving you Christians, because according to a survey, the largest consumers of porn are Christians in the Bible Belt states. So, hey, clearly y'all are, even though y'all condemn porn, y'all certainly do consume it. So
I believe the highest state is Utah with the Mormon population
Mm-hmm.
is the highest. Yeah, that's hilarious. But I found it. So I want to touch on this topic that you mentioned with Kent's wife Sandra bringing up. It was funny how Kent almost seemed to describe slavery a certain way, and it's like, well, yeah, that sounds like exactly what you're doing. If people work but they don't get paid, but they give them room and board, isn't that exactly what you do, Kent? But I found it really kind of, I don't know, just odd how the topic of slavery kept coming up over and over again, and there was just this weird undercurrent of race, like,
oh yeah,
talked about by them the whole time, and I found that to be a little bit weird. What are your thoughts on that?
So I know that in my presentations and when I discuss things, it's difficult not to discuss racism, especially as it pertains to Christianity, because of how it impacted, not just the United States, but also the Black demographic. Because it directly informs a lot of the laws that are still in the books. But laws that people like Hovind, as much as he doesn't like to admit it, benefit from. And so, that it's hard not to bring that up, especially not on our end, because we have to, and how Christianity has impacted us. However, for him to, and I've seen in commentary before that, yes. And I also saw one of the videos that you linked me to where, he puts God over like government and everything. And there was something racist in there said, but he's quick to try to denounce it in my presence. I don't know if it was just them acting like, well, Christianity was not the religion of the slave masters and whatnot, them trying to justify it in some way. But that was kind of hard for them to get around. Especially, I don't know if you remember when he said, I'm pretty sure you do, during the Q&A, that he said, well, slavery has always been around, but God came in and denounced it. And it's like, well, by your own belief, God created everything.
Yeah.
So therefore, that means God created slavery. It wasn't just simply man that created it. God created it. If he is the creator of all things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it was just, I thought it was very, very interesting that, and I think I could arguably say I'm the first Black woman he's ever debated on his platform. Maybe the first Black woman ever that he is engaged. And so if that was a point of, unless there was someone else, I think he might have I think he debated a Black man or said something about a Black, you sent me that link, but I don't think he's ever.
Yeah, that wasn't a debate. Mm-hmm. That was just him, for calling calling a Black man in the audience boy, and showing an image of an old Black woman, just like that video. I don't know. And Kent has said the N-word on his channel before. He has said it.
I'm sure.
He said,
sure.
He said, we have, because he had a person staying there. I forget the guest's name, because so many people come and go for BAL, but he said, I forget what the context was, but he said basically, come down here and call him that word and he'll beat you up, basically, something like that. And he just, says it. I'm like, Kent, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, he's obviously just from a time period where there was just this casual racism, and he's just never changed. So,
and when he said that, and apparently he contradicted himself when he said the right side, he was on the right side of the Civil War, right? There were just as many Klan members in the northern Midwestern states than there were in the South back in the early 1900s. And so many people want to equate racist behavior and action simply with the South, and that just wasn't true. There was very much lynchings took place in Midwestern states, northern states, and pretty much all across the United States. during that time period. So for him to say that he was from Illinois, as to imply that, well, he was not a part of the racist South. I was like, no, sir. The time period you were born, you were also a part of the racist Midwest. So you can't divorce yourself from that time period because it was pervasive everywhere. And it was pretty, it was pretty telling that he is from that time period. He himself is not technologically savvy, which is why he needs those folks to help him with his, with his debates and stuff. And so that was quite prevalent as well. And I was just like, yeah, this is, so you're definitely an old, sort of out of touch with reality white guy.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple questions I want to get to. So we have one from Deviant. It says, Kent equating the transatlantic slave trade with paying taxes to pay for the welfare of others. How many teeth did you lose biting your tongue? And she says, what was your reaction to that, basically?
I can just never be surprised at people like that. And part of it is because, having learned early on about racism, institutional, and how a lot of white people think, even if it is subconscious, right? These are things that we have to deal with quite a bit. I don't think that he really, truly, realizes. Well, he may, but he just doesn't care, right? Like I said, it was almost sort of comical to me. And I know why he's trying to say, the whole taxes thing, because he went to jail for tax evasion. And it seems like he'd be ready to go again, even though he's trying to hide it. He probably doesn't want to go to jail again, but maybe he would, ideologically. But he is still against paying taxes. And there's such a personal angle to that. You can tell because of the fact that he was incarcerated. And I found that I did very good not to bring that up. I did, because he didn't truly hit below the belt with me, even though he was saying, well, yeah, she won't admit that atheism is just another religion. I just laugh at that because I'm like, yeah, you people do say stuff like that.
Well, what do you mean, you people?
Right, exactly, right? What do you mean, you people?
Okay, so this is a question. It says, where do atheists get their joy in life from?
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's very weird.
As I said on the debate, right, there are multiple sources where we get our morality and joy from. I cannot speak for every atheist out there, but I get my joy from music. I get my joy from watching movies, sometimes very dumb comedy. I get my joy from interacting with other my fellow atheists and just people in general. I get joy from sex, like many of us should. Everyone should. I think everyone should get their joy from that. And if you're not, there's something wrong with with the partner that you have. Or
if you're asexual, that's cool too.
Yeah, if you're asexual, or if it's self pleasure, that's the best type of pleasure. So yes, yes, self love. So there are multiple sources. I get joy from eating my favorite food. I get joy. There's some of everything. If I'm going to a show that I like a couple of weekends ago, my husband and I went to an old school hip hop concert featuring KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, Kool Moe Dee, Special Ed, Mr. Cheeks, and who else? Nice and Smooth. So I am such a hip hop head that that brought me so much joy. It was such a good show. So pretty much almost a lot of the same places where theists get their joy, except we don't put a divine concept behind it. or we don't necessarily see it we can see it for what it is, and not necessarily ignore the other aspects because we don't have God or we don't attribute it to a God. We're pretty much we pretty much get our joy the same places that you all do.
Yeah, I think the difference is though that we don't have to feel bad afterwards for
Exactly, right. That part right there, the guilt factor, right?
Yeah, or restricting certain people from doing it, like saying that the gender or sex you are means you can't have sex with this demographic
Right.
of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as long as you said in the debate, as long as you have consenting adults and people are safe, then I don't see a problem with that.
Have at it. Yeah, have at it.
So I would respond to this question by saying that I similar to you, atheism has, I created this YouTube channel and I've met some great people from doing this these streams and just making content and stuff. It's been great. I get joy from getting paid from doing this stuff, getting monetized. Like again, congratulations on that. I got monetized when I did my video with Paulogia, which is a great channel. And I did a video about Kent that was, chronicling his, I think it was his sort of messy breakup with his third wife and all the fallout from that. And and then we came back the next year and did another video because there was just so much drama at DAL, and that my subscriber count tripled in like a few days. And I'm, I consider myself to be an artist. I get joy from painting or drawing, any type of art. That's why I've got some of my stuff up in the background here. Yeah, so all the stuff you said is totally valid. And I don't really see what the question is for, because I don't think that you need a God to have joy and fulfillment in life. I actually think that atheists have more of a focus on taking on we think we only get one chance at this life. We don't think there's an afterlife where things are going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think that the earth is going to be destroyed. There's going to be a new heaven, a new earth. We only get one planet, so we need to take care of the environment and take care of things for future generations and try and make the most out of the life that we do get, because we don't believe in an afterlife. So I would actually think that you could have more meaning for your life from that. You know what I mean? And yeah, so interesting question. I think there's one more. If you guys have any more questions, we're going to wrap up the stream pretty soon. Oh, I think I missed one. Aiden, can you post your question again? There's a lot of comments. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, like the stream if you have it.
I see one question from Ian Charity here that is hilarious. And thank you to everyone who is tuned in right now. It's so great. The question is, who is the Antichrist, Kent or Trump? Kent or Trump? Speaking as an individual, I think they both are, or, because they are so unlike what Christ is supposed to be. But they are both pretty that's hilarious.
We can't have kids.
Atheists have kids? I have 3. I don't know what you're talking about. I have 3 children.
They can. Some of them choose not to. Like, I don't have any kids. I mean, I don't choose to right now, but maybe some other time. You know what I mean? And lots of them do. So it's a weird question.
And guess what? Even if you don't want kids, if you don't have kids and if you don't want kids, there's nothing wrong with that. That is hilarious. That's just that's a troll question. Like I said, I have 3.
Well,
and
there's always 1 or 2 Christians who come to my side chat, and it's always their first time, and they ask weird questions and make weird comments. You know what I mean? So it's fine.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Okay.
I will say something very interesting. I was reminded of something that I noticed, AJ. During breakfast, Sergio, his assistant, had asked him about, he said he read up on his wife. You know, he said, well, it says that Cindy is your wife, but, you know, and he said, well, Hovind said, well, Cindy just left. He was like, they just leave. And if God says, you know, once they leave, then God said, you know, it's basically, then it's open season. And I wanted to say, no. Cindy was the one who pressed charges against him for domestic violence. So I just thought it was very interesting that he.
Yeah, she didn't just leave. But okay, I remember one of the questions was the dust on the road in front of Dinosaur Adventureland, was it as bad as Kent is claiming it to be? I'm not sure if you're familiar with this issue that Kent has with the road that goes in front of Dinosaur Adventureland is not paved, and you know Kent was really complaining that because it is a gravel pit, and you have another gravel pit that's adjacent to Dinosaur Adventureland, and you have these trucks who take gravel and they take it to construction sites. And so those trucks drive down the dirt road, and Kent is, you know, complaining that the dust is, you know, going into his camp, getting on the cabins and stuff. And he wanted the county to pave the road, which is, you know, very expensive. So are you familiar with that? And did you see anything? Did you see that road? Comments on that?
The road that goes, okay, so the road that goes like that leads, that the main road is paved. I think what he's wanting the county to do is pave the road that turns into Dinosaur Land, which, no, you know, that's your property. You need to take care of it. So the road, the main road that leads to it is paved. Now, something I saw that was very interesting on that when he gave the dime tour of the place, there was like a construction truck that was stuck in it on the facility, and I think he said it's theirs, but it was going to cost more to get it out than what they paid for it. And so there was such irony in that. It's like, okay, well, you couldn't pray that away. There's no magical powers that you could use to get that out of the dirt that or on the soil on that property. So I guess he tried to do some of that. They tried to do some of that themselves, which I'm like, of course, that's extremely dangerous. But the road, the street road, is paved. What's gravel again is the entrance to the entrance to Dinosaur Land. And why would the county or why would the state pay for that? That at that point that's considered your private property. So no, that wouldn't be something that they should pay for if that's the case. So yeah, I just thought that sounds pretty ludicrous. I mean, it's not the most ideal, like I said, for those of us who are used to having some sort of civilization, it's very far away from damn near everything. And but the roads around them are paved, the state roads and city roads.
Okay. So this is Aiden's question. Aiden, I don't appreciate the attitude. So as an activist in the Black community, I'm sure labor and the Protestant work ethic has come up before. Do you think Kent Hovind perpetuates the mistreatment of workers with his practices?
I think so. I think he is very much exploiting his parishioners. I do think that I do think that all of us need to, especially as we are working towards building our communities, that there is work that's needed and some of it isn't always going to be paid, but for him to know that he has resources and that he is basically exploiting people is quite disturbing. And so, yeah, because those types of, I'm sure his ministry or whatever, they certainly have a lot more in the way of resources than we do. Even just looking at that land, he said that land was donated to them. And I'm like thinking, yeah, it must be nice. Must be nice to have that donated. But is there, yes, is he perpetuating a sense of slavery? Not to the degree that we know of, as far as many of our ancestors have endured. But there is something to it where, of course, you are basically taking advantage of, he's taking advantage of his followers' loyalty to him, to work that land. And I can see how people, I guess, like him because, he can be very personable. He is engaging. He is hands-on with a lot of things. So I can see how he is charismatic to a degree. So I can see how I see how people get sucked into him. But that can also be very dangerous, if not, because it's just like, well, people like that will always have you doing things for them that they really need to be paying for if they have the money for it. But you become so loyal and dedicated to them that you'll do it for nothing. And so it just raised so many red flags. It was just so many alarms that just went off at that place that I just could not wait to, I was just ready to go. I was like, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity to have seen it up close. But yeah, I said, this is probably a one and done for me. So I think I'm good. Like I said, I appreciate it. Sergio, Joseph, all of the people who I did meet there and who were very kind. But yeah, I'm just like, yeah, no. And it was hot. It was very, very hot there. It was just hot in general, but I was like, oh boy. And yeah, being an activist in this community and not having the resources that we do need as an organization to be able to do the work that we do. I mean, we are doing a lot with less resources, definitely, than what Ken Hovind has. And so I take some exception to how he's able to get people to do these things for him. But it's based off of a model that many religions have used for millennia, for a long time. And it just continues to perpetuate itself, especially these fundamentalists, until something changes. So it was very, very, it was very bothersome to see that. It was reminding me of, someone brought up Jonestown in the chat. That's definitely what I said. And ironically, they had a Kool-Aid dispenser in their dining hall. They basically had Kool-Aid in there. Well, and I'm pretty sure,
Flavor Aid, but yeah.
Right, yes. Flavor Aid was what they used at Jonestown, but yes, the phrase, yeah.
I think it was a mixture of
Kool-Aid phrase.
Yeah. Kool-Aid, like the company, has got to be unhappy about that, they can't be good for their image.
No.
Okay. The question, I believe the question is, why does Kent Hovind need God when he can have a dog? That's what it says.
Or
dogs.
Well, I don't know what he's thinking on that. I mean, there were cats on that property. I'm sure there were dogs. They make better companions. Yeah, they were.
Well,
definitely.
At least we know dogs exist. We have evidence that dogs actually exist. More evidence than we do for God. And what I liked that you said, one of my favorite comments was that there have always been atheists, and so logically there have always been Black atheists. But there haven't always been. But ever since the first group of people claimed that they knew of a deity that existed, there was an atheist to come along and say that, that is junk,
Yeah. Absolutely.
True. And, that doesn't have to be a belief system, or that doesn't have to be, a label that identifies you as, believing that God doesn't exist, because they say that because they want to shift the burden of proof. No, it's a response to a positive claim that's being made. Like you guys, you guys said, we think our God exists. We're saying that that's bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
Because no religious person could deny that every holy book that was ever written was written by men. None of them were written by God.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently God can write the 10 Commandments on stone, and he did that personally, but of course those broke before anybody else saw them. But when it comes to the Bible, he has to dictate that to humans to transcribe it or to divinely inspire it. So that's what bothers me, that Ken always says that, oh, God wrote this book, God didn't write it. Or he says God shed, and they're always bringing after their kind. God didn't say anything. Humans wrote the Bible. They wrote every holy book. And he says, the Bible says that's true. Well, which Bible? There are many different versions of the Bible.
Yep.
And you pointed out that there are tons of different sects of Christianity, and they don't agree on hardly anything.
Anything, right?
And
how is he going to take shots at Catholics? He was taking shots at Catholics. I'm like, sir, the Catholics follow the Bible too. So, yeah.
Okay, so I think that's all the questions, I hope. But yeah, like I said, an hour has gone by pretty quickly. Why don't you just, anything you want to say for your final comments, and if you want to talk about your convention or whatever, but yeah, just
absolutely.
Go ahead. And then I think we'll wrap up the stream. But thank you so much for taking the time to come on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great. And once again, thank you for inviting me on to, compare and contrast some notes there and to talk about my experience. And I'm pretty sure that hopefully this won't be the last time that, we engage each other. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. And if you want to learn more about the work that we do at Black Nonbelievers, if you aren't already familiar, please do visit our website at blacknonbelievers.org. We do, if you look in the back at our poster board, we do host a cruise convention called BNC Con, and we still have slots available if you are interested in attending. We have some fantastic guest speakers. We also have a YouTube channel, which, as we said, first and foremost, is that it's now monetized. You can watch previous episodes of our show In the Cut, as well as material from our previous conventions and other events. We are a 501c3 organization, so we do encourage you to donate and support the work that we do. We continue our collaborations with other organizations and other content creators. So we are like all over the place. And, we encourage everyone to support and engage and participate with us. We welcome everyone, and we state this in our mission. We are welcoming to everyone, regardless of age, racial identity, sexual identity, gender identity. So we are very, very pro LGBTQ plus, very, very pro evidence-based practices and information, very pro human rights. And then we also like to have fun too. So, we are a very all-encompassing organization, and we hope that you learn more and also, support us. So yeah, we're not going to stop doing what we do. And unlike what Kent Hovind said, they did not convert me at all. So I'm pretty sure he knew that was a joke, because it was.
Yeah, he is a joke. I agree. Okay. We're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much to everybody who sent super chats and who sent in questions. I hope that I got all the questions that were asked. Thank you for people hanging out in the side chat. Like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I'm getting closer to reaching 9,000 subs, so I could do a celebratory over 9,000 stream. Hoping to reach that by the end of the year. I have a Patreon and channel memberships. Patreon.com/atheistjunior, and my Twitter is the same. And yeah, just like the video, share it with somebody, share it with a friend or enemy. And I'm going to be putting links to visit her site and to donate to Black Nonbelievers. I think, you know, it's a great organization that's doing some really important work. And just again, thank you for taking the time to come on. And you know, you're welcome to come back on my channel. And I look forward to seeing you. Would you debate Kent again? I guess is my question. Would you do it again?
Ooh, I don't know. The debates
probably
are
over the internet, not in person. Yeah,
yeah, probably not in person. And yeah, it was quite the experience. I mean, I think that I would be better prepared for him, but it seems like no matter who he debates, he's going to stick to a script, like y'all said before. So his people might want, but apparently they got a lot of traction from me being there as well. So, and some of his people were saying that this was one of the best debates he's done. So I thought it was that was interesting as well. So they might circle back around. I don't know. Right now I'm saying I don't know. That may change. We'll see. But I was definitely willing to go into uncharted territory there. But now that I know what to expect, I can, you know, I don't know. We'll see about that, because I loved all of the commentary that was given as well about the debate, and thank y'all for doing a reaction and a feedback on that. That was great.
Yeah. I've debated him, I think, 5 times. So yeah, I think between the 3 of us, you know, even more than that. But yeah, okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. And yeah, thanks for coming on and thanks for hanging out. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.